Welcome to Days of Roar, the Detroit Tiger podcast, brought to you by the Detroit Free Press. My name is Mark Gorash. I am here with special guest host Brandon Day, editor of Bless You Boys, site manager of Bless You Boys, janitorial crew for Bless You Boys, pretty much everything for Bless You Boys for the last 12 years. My partner, Evan Petzold, is being a new daddy for probably one more week of daddy duty. There is a Daxton Petzold. He is little. He is deliciously cute. And the Tigers, in honor of Daxton Petzold, are playing some damn good baseball. So let's review the week. B, let's review it together, man.
Yep, sounds good. Yep, it was a pretty interesting one.
All right. Tigers had a 4-2 week, dropped the last game of 2 series, absolutely dominated the first 2 games of both series to the point where the home squad was barely in a game until the last game of the series, the last 3 or 4 innings. So finished the week 4-2, total dominance in every way. Hitting, pitching was not the greatest defensive series, but we don't have the greatest defensive players playing. Okay. But give me your 2 cents of the quick 4-2.
Yeah, I mean, the small part of the lineup continues to be incredibly productive. Spencer Torkelson continues to rake. Kerry Carpenter and Riley Green aren't even really going that strong right now. And they're just getting production up and down the lineup in a way I'm sure, neither of us really had reason to expect with the injuries coming out of camp. I was pretty much like, let's just, play 500 ball here for a while and try to get healthy. And instead, guys like Zach McKinstry are hitting the cover off the ball and everything's dropping for him. Dylan Dingler has swung a really hot bat and shown his power. So, the thing I worried more about was the offense coming in. And so far, those guys have been great. The rotation by and large has been good. Reese Olson and Jackson Jobe have some work in progress going on. And, the front part of the bullpen at least is looking pretty stable. They've got a few weak links there, but overall, it's been a pretty, impressive combined performance. And even defensively, if you look at, team defensive runs saved overall, Tigers are still a little bit in the plus column. And I wouldn't have predicted that either without Parker Meadows out there.
I think if you're paying attention to how AJ Hinch manages a baseball team, you've noticed a lot of Javi Baez at third base and Trey Sweeney at shortstop. And what seemed like it might potentially be a weakness, he has defaulted to defense. And let's talk about Javi Baez playing some third base like he's Nolan Arenado. It's just holy smokes. And Trey Sweeney, you hit him the ball, he's going to get you an out. He may not make the spectacular play, but every out's an out. There's a lot to be said for playing defense that way. Second base has been pretty much a sinkhole of death. And Torque has played good enough first base that you don't really think about it. So as long as they can keep Riley Green playing center field for only part of the time, I will feel much better. And they did incur an injury this week where basically the captain of their defense, Jake Rogers, oblique, probably out for a month. But I want to pose something to you, B, which is it's not a good thing, but it may be a good thing in the sense that Dylan Dingler getting force-fed a lot of playing time. And I think the dividends of that will be immediately apparent when Jake comes back.
I'm going to 100% agree with that. Finding Dylan a ton of playing time to start the season wasn't necessarily going to be that easy. We both know AJ Hinch and Chris Fetter are going to default to the best defensive catcher. And while Dingler is good, Jake Rogers might be the best defensive catcher in baseball. At very least, he's in the conversation. So yeah, by, letting Dingler carry the load right now, getting him a ton of at bats, getting him that experience, being out there every day, grinding it out, calling the games, building the game plans with the staff every day. This is only going to be good for him, and it's only going to pay dividends in the second half. Yeah, if they can get healthy, the two of them are already a really good defensive tandem. Yeah, getting Dingler this much experience only helps them and only sets them up much better, I think, in the summer months when they'll have 2 very experienced catchers rolling along. And maybe by then Dylan Dingler is kind of running out of gas a little bit, and it's not such a bad thing to have Jake Rogers back in there 3 out of 5, turns through the rotation at some point.
I think the injury protection, if anything were to happen to Jake, it's really beneficial to have him interacting with the pitching staff here early. You don't have to worry about it later. By the way, Nieto, maybe the best backup catcher in baseball.
He is good.
It's ridiculous to have a guy that's played for 8 years. He's caught the best. He's not afraid back there. It's an outstanding move by Scott Harris that they signed him to be the third catcher. It's paying dividends already and really working out for them. we got a return of Gleyber Torres off the IL this week. Give me some thoughts about what's going on, how they're going to manipulate the lineup a little bit, but good to have Gleyber's bat back. And the way Colt Keith was playing defense, which normally is pretty solid, it's today was the Masters. I'll use a golf term. There's some yips going on there. Brandon Day, by the way, if you don't know, is an outstanding golfer. So we'll talk about the guitar skills later. But, Colt Keith with a little bit of the yips in the field. Give me some thoughts.
Yeah, a little bit of Rory McIlroy, although he managed to pull it out in the end. There were some ugly moments today. I don't think it would hurt Colt Keith at all to DH a little bit, just to get him some extra days off where he's not thinking about it, just swing the bat. And so having Gleyber Torres back from that perspective, I think works for him right now. He's clearly in his head a little bit. I mean, he's a much better defender than this. He's obviously not a standout defender. You kind of hope for average from him. I'm not sure I 100% buy that, taking a lot of balls at first base this offseason somehow screwed him up this much. There's a chance that it didn't help him, but he knows how to play the position. He's in his head. And I think we can all kind of see that right now. So yeah, get Torres back out there a little bit more. Work Keith in there. You can kind of massage him for a little bit and try to get everything sorted out there. He had a similar start to last season where he looked a little bit of a head case at the plate in that instance and, suddenly caught fire and then pretty much raked the rest of the year. So you hope for that to come around. It's a little bit of an awkward lineup. We've talked about this all spring, between ourselves. That you've got Malloy, you've got Torkelson, you've got Torres, and you've got Colt Keith, and you don't really want any of those guys out in the field all that badly in the first place. And as it stands, you're kind of rotating them through. But at the same time, AJ Hinch loves himself a pinch hitter, loves a pinch hit option off the bench, and they can make this work with those four guys working through two positions, the DH, and maybe Malloy plays left field, once a week, something like that.
Yeah, listen, Justin Henry Malloy can rake, and the more they play him, the more he's going to rake. That's just how I feel about it. He hasn't even hit stride yet, but
yeah,
his at-bats with runners in scoring position or in leverage, it's the entire reason why AJ Hinch loves him, and he demonstrated that a few times in this series. It doesn't seem as good as it is, and yeah, he's hitting 218 or whatever, but you plate the guy from third with less than 2 outs, and you put a good at-bat up, even if you get down in the count, that's your job, and that's why AJ Hinch likes him. So, Jahan it reminds me a lot of the evolution of Brett Rooker on the A's, a lot of similarities as hitters, and we're going to slow play Jahan, but he's going to get a lot of at-bats this year. I said when they demoted him, he'd get 400 at-bats this year, and I'm still sticking to that.
He's the type of hitter, too, that you want to build up through the course of the year because he's a pain in the postseason. He's a pain down the stretch. He gives you a really gritty, irritating at-bat just about every time out. And yeah, maybe he'll never learn to be a great breaking ball hitter, but, he drives fastballs, he handles lefties, he does a lot of different things for you. And yeah, I have to agree. I think AJ Hinch probably loves having him as a weapon.
He does. All right. Tigers have also, to show you the level of consistency, and we're going to jump into that in a second, 4 straight series they've won. So I think AJ Hinch got a big smile on his face because that's AJ Hinch baseball. All right, Brandon, we're going to jump in to question 1 of the big 2. Question 1 of the big 2, how sustainable is this start? What do you really like? Give me your Bless You Boys thoughts.
I think it is actually fairly sustainable. The fact that they're doing this with themselves a little bit banged up gives me some hope that as the season goes on, as guys cool off, when Zach McKinstry isn't hitting, with a 150 WRC plus or whatever he's got right now, that they're going to get some guys back. They're going to get Matt Bierling back in there who can kind of fill some holes for you, does a few different things well. And then, hopefully at some point we get Parker Meadows back. So they have some things to look forward to as far as getting reinforcements along the way. I think there are certainly individual hitters right now who are not going to sustain what they're doing without better swing decisions overall. Dylan Dingler, I don't think has walked once yet. There are some issues through individual players where that they're not going to continue to rake at quite this level. I don't know that Spencer Torkelson is one of the 5 best power hitters in the game now. He might be. He's showing some signs, but you can't expect all that to keep going right. So what I look for is the fact that they've got some guys who are going to come back and probably fill in the gap. I think they can pitch. I'm not worried about them pitching. I don't think the bullpen is great. I think there's a couple spots there that are going to be up for competition probably all year long. And I don't really see any, immediate takers in the Toledo Mud Hens bullpen at this point either. So there's going to be some things to solve. We know there's some guys hurt. Madison, Lang, apparently had a little bit of a setback. So, those guys might take a while, but it's just easy to trust Chris Fetter to be eventually able to just piece this thing together, find another arm or two. And overall, yeah, the problem, AJ Hinch in 4 years as manager of the Tigers has started out slow every year. They've always kind of had that late April, early May kind of swoon where they were a couple games under 500. Maybe they lost it a little bit further than that. And every year they make this team better as they go. They teach up their players and they get better as they go along. So to get out to a hot start with some of the issues that they had feels really good, and it sets them up long term, I think, pretty well.
For those of you that don't know Brandon Day, not only is he probably one of the most well-read human beings that I know. He's a virtual library of non-baseball reading. So I'm going to explain how I think things are going so far in a way that has to do with writers, which is somebody wrote a great play. In this case, it was AJ Hinch. And right now, the understudies are absolutely killing it. The understudies are performing at a level you don't even know the stars aren't there. And could we have expected this? Who knew? But they are able to execute the words on the page to perfection. The style of play has not changed one bit in the last 60 games, and it has not mattered who was playing. So that's kind of how I feel. The dominance for long stretches is crazy. The first two games of this series, the first two games of the Yankee series, it was just taking people's lunch money. It was demoralizing to play against the Tigers. And I think my joke yesterday was like it was playing against a giant group of angry woodpeckers. It was until Torkelson went yard. It was just pecking and pecking and pecking away and pecking more. And it was just like, enough already. Okay. And that is how good teams play. It's been a long time since we were exposed to baseball of this caliber of execution. And damn, I love how annoying the Detroit Tigers are and how success-oriented this style of play is for AJ Hinch. It is so much fun, and it's not going away. I don't think it's going away, Brandon. I really don't. I only think it's going to get better. They will have slumps. Every team does. Riley Green, I don't think Riley Green could find a baseball right now with a compass. Holy smokes. Struck out 14 of his last 23 times at the plate. He's later than 2023 Spencer Torkelson, and I feel so bad for him. At the same time, and I want to ask you if you saw this, after the game, who stood at his locker and was just about the most pleasant, entertaining interview you could have imagined after going 0 for the series, 1 for his last 24, but Riley Green. It's how a leader acts, because this isn't forever.
Yeah. And they won. They're winning. And when they're winning, that's how he's going to act. And it's not going to change things if he has a bad series. He's going to be about the team. They're all kind of shockingly about the team. And we also see them able to be flexible and execute different, tactics within that sort of like overall culture and way that they play the game. This year they'd been more aggressive early in counts. Last year they were almost patient to a fault. And you see AJ Hinch just sort of puppet mastering his way, moving them one way. We're going to build this approach. We're going to get a reputation for playing like this. And then in a certain circumstance, we're not going to play like that. And you just see him kind of setting these little traps up for opposing managers. You see the way that the approach has improved, how they've been ambushing people a little bit more this year, which was another thing that they had problems with last year. They weren't the team that was taking it to the starter in the first inning, putting him under pressure. This year, they're doing all those things, and they haven't even really started to run the bases as well as they were capable of last year. They pushed it on the bases. They took, the extra base all the time. We're just seeing a lot of fun things out of this team. And I agree. I think the best is yet to come potentially for this team if they can continue to stay, reasonably healthy in the main characters, to go back to the play analogy.
Well, the other thing I hope stays in force is whatever magic lamp that Spencer Torkelson found with these swing changes. I know he's used Wish 1, but the question is, I wonder what Wish 2 and Wish 3 are going to be, because holy smokes, these last two bombs, I think that NASA got a recording from these. They were, holy smokes, did he touch those last two home runs off? And these aren't accidents. We've talked about Spencer Torkelson to clue everybody in who likes to listen to Days of Roar, and thank you very much. But Brandon, myself, Rogelio Castillo, Chris Brown, Mikey Cecilia, Brian Sikowski, we have a chat that for four of us has been ongoing for like 8 or 9 years. So we have been known to talk about some things. We've talked about Spencer Torkelson, and for a while it's been a mixed bag of how long this will last. We're not going to get into that yet or now because we don't know. And to be really blunt about it, I don't want to mess with the mojo. The mojo is strong right now, and we're not doing anything to jinx it. All right, I want to jump into question 2 of the big 2. Pitching. It's a Brandon Day specialty. I mean, you're talking to a pitching scientist. What have you liked? What are you watching? Let's break it out about starting pitching, the bullpen. Tell me what you're seeing and how it's progressing.
What I'm really liking so far is Casey Mize. Much like Spencer Torkelson, who a lot of us were kind of in the to the point of, okay, this person is going to contribute perhaps, but this just isn't going to happen as far as a breakout. You can find it on our site at Bless Your Boys Today. I wrote a lengthy piece about Casey Mize, the enormous amount of improvements he made this offseason, rebuilding his split finger fastball, rebuilding his kind of one mediocre slider into 3 sliders that are all useful, using them on a continuum, changing speeds, adding and subtracting movement. I don't know who this man is, but I love this man. We saw the fastball get a lot better last year. And as he's locating the fastball, with improvements in movement, throwing harder than he did pre TJ, I mean, it's looking great. And he did not have his best day today. The command wasn't real sharp. He didn't really look like he had the split dialed in the way he has the first couple outings and the way he did in spring training today. But those things are going to happen. I think there's a good chance that Casey Mize is still getting better with the amount of things he added this offseason, and I'm very excited to see how that goes. Jackson Jobe, I kind of don't want to talk about that much. I think we both know what needs to happen. This man needs to spot the fastball. He needs to attack, and he needs to, just throw strikes and learn to work the edges and just improve in those ways. He's still kind of feeling for the arsenal, still trying to figure out exactly what the best breaking ball is for certain situations and certain types of hitters. But he's just going to kind of run. We'll just let him do his thing. As long as he's not hurting them, that's just fine. Get him his experience. But overall, the starting rotation looks good. Reese Olson actually looks pretty darn good to me. Just hasn't really had sharp command yet. And I'm going to assume that comes along. And I think after the year of pitching chaos, it's really interesting to look at a starting rotation like this and think like, this might be one of the best starting rotations in baseball. It looks like it so far, and that might carry through quite a bit of the season. They've got a lot of backup. They've got Cater Montero. They might have, whatever Alex Cobb can give them, they might have that. So overall, the rotation looks good. Again, the bullpen, Kenta Maeda, a little bit of a white flag when Captain Maeda comes out, but he's not hurting them right now. Bo Brisky has not been super impressive, giving me a little bit of Foley vibes when the fastball isn't really popping. He's just not the same guy. And other than that, though, Brebby has been good. Canley's been good. Tyler Holton, I don't think his numbers have been his best, but he looks sharp. So, I think they've got their 4 or 5 guys. Brendan Hanafy's been pretty effective. But yeah, I still think there's going to be some changeover in the bullpen as we go. And, we're kind of used to that now watching this coaching staff.
First of all, it's the ghost of Alex Cobb that will be.
I didn't want to quite say that.
Right. But I don't think you're going to see any of that until June. And just understand that Jackson Jobe is only going to be able to throw 125 innings.
Correct.
I want to quickly touch on Casey Mize. I thought he was pretty outstanding today. He got a little BABIP bad luck today. Didn't get quite as much swing and miss, but, between the second and the fifth, he was pretty damn good. And he is pretty precise.
Yeah.
I thought it was very, very interesting, almost arrogant. He started the baseball game today. Split, slider, split, strikeout. And if Casey Mize has ever done that for the Detroit Tigers in a baseball game, first hitter, I wasn't watching that game because I had never seen that before. And I think that just tells you how arrogant he feels about his split. I also saw a split at 91 miles an hour today.
Oh, yeah.
And you got to understand, in the month of April, guys are still kind of polishing their next level caliber command. And I saw some next level caliber command today from Casey Mize in the sense that I think he was like in the first 4 innings, he was like 42 pitches or something like that. And he kind of got, they dinked and dunked him a little bit in the fifth. And, it didn't bother me. As far as Jackson Jobe, we've had many, many, many talks. And if you listen to the talks Bobby Scales and I had last week and what Ev and I have discussed, and even discussing it with Jackson Jobe a little earlier this winter, I think he's learned a few things. I was excited to see what would happen as he packs starts back to back to back. And we found out the answer to that today. yesterday, which is, guess what? Four-seamer, not a good pitch for him. He misses too many times in the plate. Major league hitters, they put a bad spanking on it, and they've done it many times. That four-seamer needs to be top rail, bottom rail, not a strike most of the time. The pitch that he's really found is a two-seam, the sinker, arm side, inside the right-hand hitters, either on the plate or slightly breaking off the plate. It sets up all the rest of his arsenal. You saw it a lot yesterday. You saw much better command because he could use that pitch to throw strikes, and really got a lot of bats turned into kindling, really set up the cutter, which is becoming a weapon, Corbin Burns caliber cutter. He hasn't even broken out the the Jackson Jobe super changeup yet. You and I both love that pitch, and we haven't even really seen the absolute flamethrower changeup, which I promise you will be seeing it soon. So excited about that. Reese Olson needs to finish hitters. That's kind of where he's struggling, getting ahead, not finishing people. And I kudos to Jack Flaherty, because he looks like last year's Jack Flaherty minus 2 miles an hour and still getting the same results. Scoobs, I think, found his command in his last start. I'm excited about it. The bullpen is, as long as you got that back end, Canely can get 3 outs in the 9th inning, and you got Vest and Holton to put out fires. However they mix and match the rest, I'm good with. So I'm pretty excited about the pitching staff, Brandon.
I'm pretty excited about the team overall. And, having done this for a long time and have, trained myself to disappointment, and, always kind of having, a little bit of a skeptical eye for even the best of things. I feel pretty great about this team right now. There's just a lot to like. They've got some ammo in the minor leagues that might help them out along the way. There's nothing exactly pressing in that regard, but it's a pretty deep group. They play really good baseball together. And like you said, that, Will Vest has turned himself into a little bit of a monster at this point. I don't know what, cotton candy or what it was he ate at the Little League Classic last, summer that gave him superpowers. But yeah, he's just become the man out there these days, and Tyler Holton, has that madness to him as well. You can throw him out there in any situation. And, I've been watching Holton spin that knuckle curve in there more and more. And that thing is becoming kind of a particularly evil weapon when you're already dealing with like four-seam, cutter, sinker, changeup, regular slider. Guy's got a screwball in his back pocket in there somewhere. So yeah, it's a mess to deal with as a hitter. And he's got enough to pitch like a starter to either handed hitter out there. And there's just not a lot of guys that can do that.
He's like watching a brain surgeon pitch, man. He pitches with such precision. It's just ridiculous. All right, here's what we're going to do. You want to know who Brandon Day, Mark Gorash like to go to baseball games with sometimes? Well, we have the same guys been going to the baseball game together a few times a year for over a decade. They have their own podcast. Brandon's on one of them. So the boys from Tiger Minor League Report, we're going to talk about the minor leagues. Rogelio Castillo, Chris Brown with Brandon. We got our boy Tiger Mike Cecilia, my good buddy. And we have a very underrated podcaster with a big audience. Has to give a recap every single night, really knows the game, and a hell of a good guy, Scott Bentley. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk a bunch of things, Tiger Minor Leagues. We'll be back in a few. Welcome back. I'd like to welcome some of my favorite boys. You ever want to know who Mark Gorash likes to go to baseball games with? I got them all here. I have Rogelio Castillo, Chris Brown, and the podcast version of Brandon Day from Tiger Minor League Report. I have the big time, highly rated Locked On Tigers podcast host Scott Bentley, and I have social media celebrity, baseball expert, hockey expert, Papa Mafia member, Mike Cecilia. So, boys, welcome to Days of Roar. I am just beyond excited to have all our faces on one particular call, and we'll be lucky if the police don't actually do a roundup because they got us all in the same spot. So, all right, let's talk a little baseball. All right, let's defer to what is the expertise of Tiger Minor League Report. Season's 9 days old. Let's talk a little bit about Tiger Minor Leagues. Let's jump to the bad stuff first. Give me an injury update on two of the most exciting prospects of the last 25 years in the Detroit Tiger farm system outside of Riley Green, which are Bryce Rayner and Kevin McGonigal. How are we looking? Do we have any idea how long they'll be out? Rogelio Castillo.
So as far as McGonigal goes, so we got an update today from Emily Walden, and basically there's no real the timetable of when he's going to come back. As far as a couple of people have asked around in Lakeland, Bryce, still nothing as of yet. Chris, unless you saw something that I didn't see, but I didn't see anything in our DMs this afternoon.
Chris Brown.
No updated information there. We think we found when McGonigal actually got injured, and you could see it. We put a clip up. It looks like a classic, his ankle just kind of rolled up on him. How long that takes to come back? Like, I don't know, 3 weeks, a month. You would hope it's not too long. Rayner's is tougher to figure out. He went and he played for most of the game, and then heading into the ninth inning, he kind of slowly walked out to shortstop and then called the trainers out and left the game. And this is, he got hit in the helmet a week before that. I don't think he had a concussion or anything like that. I think they're just being extra cautious to give you a week off or whatever in the lower minors. But we also know that he was slightly injured at the end of last year. He didn't participate in the Bridge League. So I don't know if there's something behind the scenes that's been nagging here, or if it's just like a calf cramp, or, it's pure speculation on my part right now. It didn't look terribly serious, but you never really know with injuries.
Yeah, it'd be fun if he could play 20 games in a row and we could see what he could do, because that was far beyond any quality of tools that we saw in the prospect game. Holy smokes, that was loud. I mean, wow. Brandon Day.
I think he's taken like 4 swings in pro ball that we've seen, and I think 3 of them he's hit a ball over 107 miles per hour. It's been money, and all to the opposite field, just lasers. So, and we've barely seen the kid, and what is he? I don't even know if he's 20 yet. Probably not.
Chris Brown.
No, not yet. I think he turns 20 in July. Yeah, it's easy power too. And even in that one game, you saw he stole a base. He tried to pull like a unassisted double play and threw the ball 800,000 miles an hour at the wall. Clean up that accuracy a little bit, but the arm strength is there. I mean, he's a tool shed. Just, got to stay healthy. Want to see him on the field.
Hey, I can't decide. I mean, a lot of people use the Corey Seager comp. I've used the A-Rod comp. That's how amazingly tooled up he is. So pretty impressive stuff. All right. Talk to us a little bit about guys that are playing. And Max Clark off to a pretty big start. Joseph Briseño starting to come on. Other guys have also begun well. Akil Baddoo, I assume, is going to get promoted here maybe tonight to double or triple A. So tell us what's going on in the minor leagues. All of you kind of give me a flavor for what you're seeing, because I know all of you watch minor league activities in minor league baseball. Rogelio Castillo.
So, I mean, a big time person that I've kind of seen adjust really well so far at Double A has been Roberto Campos. And so we found out, by the way, it's Tyrone, it's not Tyrone, it's Tyrone. It's been pronounced. We got some clarification on that. But,
Tyrone Lorenzo.
Yep. Yes, that's correct. But Roberto Campos is off to a really good start. He has been hitting the ball very well. And thanks to our friends over at the Erie Seawolves, they've kind of given us some batted ball information too. He's hit global balls over 100 miles an hour. He's adjusted very well, whereas Tyrone's kind of struggled a little bit. Teams have been, especially when I saw him last week when I was in Erie, there is a attack of the way they're attacking him at the plate. They're attacking him inside, and he has a hard time extending his hands and extending his arms and getting anything out. So they're not throwing anything at all. And he was facing a Harrisburg staff, a Senator staff that was just terrible outside of the guy I faced on Sunday who was throwing heat. But Campos against Susanna, was one of the best pitching prospects out there, was able to hit him just fine. And the same, a pleasant surprise also in Erie is Jim Jarvis, who we thought, Chris and I were talking about this, we thought he might start the season at West Michigan, but he's been hitting the ball very well, also with some good miles per hour off his bat speed. He's kind of struggled a little bit, but what we've noticed between Toledo and Erie is a lot of guys don't really belong at that level. For example, Justice Bigby there's no reason for him to be in Erie, period. I mean, is he a guy at Toledo? He had a home run Saturday, and then he got sent down to Erie. So between him and then Trey Cruz, who I think Trey Cruz has hit safely. He's hit in 8 straight games. He's a guy who, coming back from Tommy John, you would never know it. I mean, he's looked really good. He's played third base. He's played short. And I think he's a guy who is just some of the decisions that I've kind of questioned a little bit about the veteran outfielders. Again, I understand they're just filling, the gaps a little bit. But another guy that really has impressed me down in Erie is Jake Miller, who is now has a lot of run so far in his Double-A work. since last year. Pitches to contact a little bit, but his velocity, he's just really good at getting some swing and miss stuff. Him and Garrett Burhan, who I'm a big fan of Burhan. Chris and I have talked about this. I know a lot of people will have Burhan on their prospect list, but he pitched really good today. As far as what we've seen in Toledo, the offense has just been, I'm not gonna mince words. It's atrocious. It's atrocious right now because outside of Jace Young, there's not, Hai Lee has been struggling, just continues to overswing a little bit. He's a work in progress. I mean, you do like the number of seeing, something, for example, that Tyler Owens got a, whiff weight of swing whiff weight of 50% or something like that. Those are encouraging numbers. The bullpen Foley's been getting his velocity there, but those right now, the offense has just been, the rest of Toledo's offense has just been just trash.
Chris Brown.
Yeah, it is an interesting decision that they've made where, these guys have been at Erie, Cruz, Jake Holton, Chris Myers, all these guys have been there for Bill Malgieri. They've been there for 3 years now. Basically, we keep joking that it's harder to get to Toledo than it is to Detroit. And I don't know. I mean, they just keep bringing in these kind of, for lack of a better term, 4A players to just fill out the roster there in Toledo, and they're playing terribly. All those guys are doing really bad. So I don't know what's going on there. But, I've been focusing a lot on the lower minors. Mark, you asked about Max Clark, Briseño, and stuff like that. I got to go out there for opening day. It was really fun because you got to see Chase Burns, the number 2 overall pick in last year's draft, start the game against 3 top 100 prospects. And Burns is outstanding. He has no business being in high A. He could be pitching in the majors right now out of a bullpen if he wanted to. But, McGonigal was the best hitter in that game. Unfortunately, that was the only game he's played so far, but he squared up the ball 4 times, I think. Nearly hit a grand slam in 39 degrees to left center. It was amazing. And, Max Clark, you mentioned him. That kid does a lot of things really well that he has no business doing well at this point in his career. He's remarkably good when men are on base. He just seems to have that knack for putting the ball in play, putting it in play in the right spot. He goes to the opposite field incredibly well for somebody his age. I think people need to understand that he's probably not going to be that Corbin Carroll that everybody was hoping for. I don't think he's going to be that MVP level talent. He doesn't have that level of power, and he's not as fast as Corbin Carroll. He's fast, but Corbin Carroll's, an 80 grade runner. So I think you need to set your sights a little bit lower as to he's still going to be, I think, a pretty good major leaguer, but think more like a Stephen Kwan or an Adam Eaton, or the patron saint of this type of player is probably Johnny Damon, right? He could be a good big leaguer for a very long time, but I just don't think it's ever going to be MVP level.
I don't think anyone would complain if he became any one of those 3 guys. I do know that he throws better than Johnny Damon because my mom throws better than Johnny Damon, and she's 87 years old. So, Johnny Damon may be the worst arm I've ever seen on a major leaguer, but definitely an annoying, very, very, very good hitter.
Mike Cecilia. Yeah, I'd like to see Max Clark get pushed a little bit, maybe a little sooner than mid-season like Scott Harris has liked to do before. I think low A's not going to do him a whole lot of good after a couple of more weeks. I'd like to see them be a little aggressive with him and move him up quicker.
Rogelio Castillo.
I think what it is going to be for him is that he's going to face the best of high A right now. And then until really mid-season, when you start seeing the guys start going up to double A, is that when I think you'll see Clark go up. And then the reason why is because I think they have to make decisions on the AAA outfielders right now, like the guys like Ben Gamble and Jack Dunn, who are there for really just fodder at this point, to be honest. And so I think that if he's going to face the best of the best right now, as far as competition goes. If he was still there in July or August, I'd be kind of concerned. Go ahead, Chris.
And there are things that I want to see him do better down there. The main thing that I've seen from him so far is I like to contrast it with McGonigal because McGonigal just gets the barrel on everything. And what Clark isn't doing very well right now is punishing pitches that he should. He's missing pitches that are right down the middle or pounding them into the ground. Sometimes they're singles because he's fast and he hits it hard, but he's just not driving the ball, particularly to the pull field at all. And I think, he needs to make some adjustments there to get to do that. I think he will. He made some great adjustments last year, but I don't think he would be challenged at double A for sure. I'm just not quite sure he's ready or what he's doing yet. It deserves that, even if the surface level stats are there.
Brandon Day.
Max Clark, it's what he's done so far looks a lot like the beginning of last year, where he was going opposite field quite a bit, we were kind of thinking the same things. And then he sort of settled in and started pulling the baseball a little bit more and doing a little bit more damage. And it may just be the same, pattern repeating at a higher level here where he just needs to settle in, a little bit more. Right now, he's just poking a lot of balls the other way, driving a few pitches. But yeah, when we start to see him pull the ball in the air, I think then you can start to think about, moving him up to Erie and challenging him a little bit more. But yeah, so far it's looked a little bit defensive, maybe even just a little bit. So yeah, not exactly lighting it on fire, but doing well so far, at least.
Here, what I was going to say is we talked a little bit about that. And yes, we'd love to see a lot more line drives. There hasn't been a ton of line drives from Max Clark yet. But the funny part about this is what's the matter with hitting singles the opposite? Oh. I think, he's really, really good at it. He seems to get much better swings with runners on base. It's almost uncanny. I think he had 80 RBIs last year. But I think in some ways, me being hard on him, I am very hard on him because I wanted to draft Wyatt Langford. And, what do you want to say about that? We'd really want to get into that now. But, at the same time, he's got almost 1,000. He's gotten 1,000 OPS. He's knocking in runs in clutch situations. He's flaring singles to left field. He's stealing some bases. I think we should be praising the guy for what he's doing instead of being disappointed for what we hoped he would do. So at the same time, I got to think Max Clark's not getting more than 120 at-bats in West Michigan before they push him. And yeah, he needs to swing the bat better. But if he keeps playing even like this, I got to think by the middle of May, he's in Pennsylvania playing baseball in Double-A. So that's my 2 cents. I want to pivot a little bit from the minor league stuff with you guys because you also talk on your pods, especially Scotty Bentley, about how the big league team's doing. So I just want to get your input. What's your thoughts on, I'm going to go straight to Scott Bentley. What's your thoughts on these early games, their execution, their consistency, and how excited are you about this, Scott?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like it's nice to stockpile wins when the injury list looks like it does. I think that's kind of my biggest takeaway right now is like, I feel like I would be, and we probably all, if they were losing a lot of games, would be like, oh, well, like, look at the injury situation. Yes, you have to win, but like it's early in the year and they're hurt. Let's see what happens later in the year. And the fact that we don't have to say that, I think is beautiful. So I think that's probably one of my biggest, not even observation or like analysis, just like my biggest sighs of relief is like that they're playing competitive, good baseball with the amount of injuries they have. Obviously, like Riley's in a slump. I'm sure that's a topic of conversation that we're all going to have here this week. And it's been like, I think he'll be fine. I trust and believe in the player, but he's been a pretty notoriously streaky hitter in his major league career. So I think getting that ironed out is a big deal. But I don't know how the biggest conversation piece of the team so far is not, especially offensively, is not just blatantly Spencer Torkelson, almost to the point where like it's old news already and it's April 13th. Like it's he's been that good to start off the season and was that good in spring training. So I know we've all talked, together privately about the mechanical adjustments he's made and how encouraging all that is. But that completely changes the dynamic of this offense. It's the right-handed power bat that we needed to get in the offseason. And some people don't think we added. And, it'd be nice to have more than one, but like, we'll take one. And so I think that's a huge piece going forward. There's plenty of other storylines. I already mentioned Green, but he's in the same boat as Torkelson a little bit, maybe not as extreme. Obviously, Cole Keith struggles, et cetera, et cetera. But I think really the biggest thing for me is just the offense is producing. A, just like period, which is something that was kind of a question going into the year. But B, they've been producing with the amount of injuries they've had. And both of those, I think, are encouraging. We knew the pitching was going to be good. I trust the pitching. I think it still is good. But seeing the offensive production they've got has been, I think, the most encouraging sign for me, for sure.
I think that what we discount a lot is how good the pitching has been. And even on nights the hitting has not been great early, they've kept them in games because I think they play a style of play where they're going to give you all 27 outs. And if you can keep the game 2-1, 3-1, 4-1 going into the seventh and not let the game get away from you, they truly believe that even if they've been dead, and they were pretty dead today, something good might happen. I mean, it's pretty hard to come back against Louis Varland throwing 100. Griffin Jack's maybe the most unhittable reliever in baseball right now, with 3 pitches that are just devil pitches. And then you bring in, Duran throwing a 97 mile an hour split. I mean, come on. I mean, the Twins, it's kind of curious. I don't know if anybody has a better finishing 3 than that. And it would be wise for them to try to get a lead. They did not have a lead. I don't even know if the Twins have had a lead this year. I'm not sure.
Good advice. Real good advice. They should listen, man.
Holy smokes. But that was really something, the way they finished the game. And it just all seems kind of wasted, doesn't it? I mean, the Twins just look like they needed to go into a hyperbaric chamber. They were, holy smokes, did they look dead for 24 innings? Did they not? Whew, that was ugly.
Rogelio Castillo.
That was bad, some bad baseball by the Twins. And I don't really like this, when I see the Ty France sign, I'm like, come on. I mean, it's just, Jose Miranda, who got sent down after the game on Saturday for that blunder. It's one of those things where I look at the Twins on paper and just go, how the hell is this team 5-11, wherever the hell they are? It's just, they look on paper a much better team, and for whatever reason, they just can't get it done. And the attendance this weekend, Minnesota Twins fans usually come up pretty well, but they're just over it, and the frustration's showing. But it's that back end of that bullpen, when they're right, if they can just get a little more starting pitching on that end, or like some of the starting pitching that the Twins have some pitching. It's just, I don't know. I just, whether it's just they can't stay healthy or whatever the case is, whatever the Twins, I really think it's just a matter of time. Like, if Buxton goes down, I mean, forget about it. Their whole season's done.
Scott Bentley.
With Lopez hurt, their bottom half of their rotation is brutal. Like, I mean, we saw it, right? Like Joe Ryan already pitched, right? Like we missed the top 2 that are healthy for them. I mean, the Tigers very comfortably had the pitching advantage in all 3 games. And like, that's something that I'm struggling with every series. As I look at it, I go, well, I feel like we should probably take at least 2 of 3 here. Like we got the better starting pitching matchup over just about anybody, no matter where we're at in the rotation. I think that's awesome, but it also, I have to remember that, offense is a thing too, and that needs to keep producing.
Yeah, well, if you like who the Twins threw at them, wait till you see who Milwaukee's throwing this series.
Tyler Alexander? You're not pumped about Todd the Painter?
Holy smokes.
Against Tarek Skubal, no less.
Mike Cecilia.
Get to miss another ace there in Milwaukee, too, with Peralta starting today.
So, Mikey, you always are the level-headed one about how good things are, but pretty great start. 4 series wins. How you seeing things going forward? You feeling good? Is the consistency level there? Is this real to you? How does this play in a season ticket holder's, type of perspective?
Yeah, well, you know me, I'm always, let's see a larger sample. You're not going to fool me again, Spencer Torkelson. Well, Spencer Torkelson has now set me up for shame on me twice if this isn't real. I'm a believer after today. I was watching today's game, trying to figure out, okay, who do I think is the realist between Torkelson and Mize? Because I'm impressed with both of them, obviously, as the whole group is. And Spencer Torkelson took that lead from me a little bit today. No knock on Mize's performance today. He was definitely, bad luck on the BIP, no doubt about that. But what I was hoping to see was a couple of more strikeouts out of him there. Minnesota doesn't strike out a lot. Olsen only struck out 3. Job with 2 yesterday. I wanted to see that splitter do some damage today. Give me 5 or 6 Ks out of this performance. I would have felt a lot better. And that's no knock on Mize. I'm still very high on Mize. I still believe, that his bounce back here is leaning more toward real than not as well. But for right now, what Spencer Torkelson is doing has me extremely excited. I've only been railing for 2 years to get me a right-handed power bat. Well, we might have had them all along. We just had to wait.
Rogelio Castillo.
Especially the home run he had today was just a massive shot. The way he just threw out his arm. And what it's encouraging to me early on is the fact that he's hitting with power since spring training. He never did that before. And that was something that I was like, okay, well, spring training doesn't matter. Numbers don't matter. We always take stock and going, we tell ourselves over and over again, spring training stats don't matter. Well, to a certain extent, they do. But the fact is that when you look at all, you look at his batting average, all this average X velocity, it's all in the red. And it hasn't been the case at all for him. And so the fact that he's not missing center cut fastballs and just destroying them, that is a positive sign. And the Tigers need all the right hand power they can get right now, especially when this lineup is struggling at times the way it does with Riley Green struggling a little bit. But my God, just the home run today was just an example. It just almost like it's like he's so centered in on, and even when he doesn't get that home run, he knows where to put that line drive right in the proper gaps.
Brandon Day.
I mean, I think you even see like the bad at bats are what are particularly impressive because he's just not giving many of them away. He's still going to fight you for 10 pitches and hit the ball hard somewhere. You just don't see him, looking lost like he did last year at all. And these things can come and go. Maybe there'll be some adjustments from pitchers as they, now have to really take him into account again. But it looks pretty real. It definitely does. I mean, seeing him take outside pitches and hit him hard to right field, pulling the ball hard in the air whenever he gets a chance. I mean, that's all you were ever looking for. And, he's able to create those bad angles on different pitches. Whereas the last 2 years, he was kind of like reminded me of Alex Avila out there, like good swing decisions, but he was only going to hit the fastball if it was like literally belt high down the middle. So, you're starting to see that flexibility that comes from a more mobile stance, moving better in the box. And yeah, I hate to say it because we're just not that deep into the season, but it's feeling pretty real to me as well. And I also noted today that the Tigers are now 40-17 in their last 57 games, by the way, going back to last year. So there's a kind of hint of the carryover so far this year from the run last summer.
Mike Cecilia.
One last thought there with Torkelson, because it plays right off what Brandon was saying there. The other thing, the swing adjustments we've talked about that at length, but I also think some simplicity there where it's turned into see ball, hit ball for him. And I think that might be the biggest adjustment at all of them all, because besides the one game in Seattle where he started the check swing, half swing, 3/4 swing thing, I'm like, oh no, Torque, don't start that again. We haven't seen a whole lot of that out of him. It's see ball, hit ball, and I think that's done him very, very well.
All right, boys, I'm going to let you finish the show with me, but before we do that, we're going to take a break. Got a series coming up. Got Milwaukee for 3 games, followed by, I think the team's coming home to play Kansas City for 4. There are no off days this week. I can't wait to play Kansas City. That should be a lot of fun. Any thoughts on what you think's coming up this week? Milwaukee, the pitching matchups look pretty attractive. Scott Bentley.
No, that's the again, as I said earlier, that's the biggest thing that I'm trying to like slow my roll with is like, it's when, part of previewing games is so heavily reliant on pitching matchups, and it's very early, and pitchers that we think are going to be good are going to struggle, and vice versa. Like there's so much season left, but right now it really just feels like every time you look ahead and you're like, oh, like let's see the pitching matchups for the next series the Tigers play. They have the pitching advantage in all but one of the games when you look ahead like that. And it's just, that's awesome. But it's also, I feel like a false sense of security sometimes if the offense doesn't keep rolling how it is too. So yeah, Milwaukee's another team too that is kind of similar to you in the sense that they got swept to start off the year and have won a lot lately since. They started off 0-3 and are already back to 500 or above 500 ball. I don't know if they ended up winning today's game. I only watched the first 5 innings, but yeah, that's a competitive team. We kind of know how they operate, and I think it'll be another good kind of litmus test, as a lot of the series lately, sans the White Sox, kind of have been.
All right, boys, just about getting time for all of us to get out of here. But before we do that, I want to make sure everybody knows where they can find your podcast. So, Scott, tell them where they can find Locked On.
Yeah, you can look up Locked On. Is a pretty good place to start. My social is, what's the app called now? X. Bentley Scotty is mine, and then there's links to literally everything I do there. If you're a hockey fan and you want to suffer with, us this off season, I host Locked On Red Wings as well, Locked On Tigers. Yeah. And then anything else I do is just, on my social.
And you do a recap after every Tiger game, right?
I sure do.
You can find him on YouTube as well.
Yes, you can.
Chris and Brandon, tell them you got a pretty famous podcast called Tiger Minor League Report. Tell them what days you do it and where they can find you.
Find it on all the various podcast locations, iTunes, all that stuff. We stream it live every Monday night at about 9 p.m. We tend to go an hour and a half or longer, go through the whole minor league slate of games for the full week. And we'll do like, one-off videos breaking down a prospect's, tools or their performance. But yeah. And that's at the Tigers ML Report on Twitter.
Besides holding down the fort with these two goofballs on Tiger Minor League Report, tell them what and where they can find Bless You Boys, how long you've been doing it. And, there's recaps, there's in-depth pitching articles. Give them an idea of where to find it and what you talk about. Brandon Day.
Yeah, it's all there at blessyouboys.com. I've been writing there since like 2014. I've been the managing editor for the last 5 years. I probably write like a Game of Thrones size book about the Tigers every year, which frightens me every off season when I start thinking back about how much I wrote. So yeah, you can find all that stuff there. We have analysis, game threads you can hang out with people in. We'll keep you up to date with all the local news. And yeah, and then I get to guest star over on their fantastic podcast over there while they do the grunt work and go out to minor league games, in April in, blissful Erie and Comstock Park and, get the real scoops for us all. So yeah, you can find all of our stuff at blessyouboys.com.
I will also add that if you want to know the 20 best books in the Port Huron Library, just message Brandon and he will be happy to tell you what's worth reading these days, because secretly he is pretty prolific when it comes to those things. Mikey, you like to give a lot of thoughts, a lot of recaps, both about baseball and hockey and grandparenting. Where do they find you? And tell them how often you do it, because you do it about every day.
Yeah, I'm basically just on Twitter. maybe at some point I'll expand a little bit. I've got a couple of ideas here that I'm thinking about for the future.
Come right for us again, Mike.
That very well could be a part for sure. We'll have to talk for sure. But yeah, you can find me Tiger Mike 1975 on X, and that's primarily where I'm at. I'm on Blue Sky as well, but haven't been on there in the last couple of months. Just hasn't gained a lot of traction, so I keep it to X. I pretty much do something every game day morning. And then, most games after the game, I'll be around and try to spur a little bit of discussion. But anybody that wants to talk baseball pretty much 24/7, 365, find me on there. And I enjoy going back and forth with everybody.
Not to mention, if you go to a Detroit Tiger baseball game, he is like the mayor of Comerica Park. So
up to the top 324 and see me if you're at Comerica Park.
And he has been known to do a few remotes and many pictures, and there's a cast of characters, and it's just a whole lot of damn fun. All right, you can see why I like to go to the baseball game with these guys. We do know that the Mark Gorash rules are it's not 65 degrees. I'm not going. So I want to remind everybody to please rate, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. You can find all of us on YouTube. And you can always find Days of Roar located in every single Evan Petzold article. If you ever writes one again, at freep.com. I'd like to thank the editor of the Free Press, Nicole Avery Nichols, Ryan Ford, the Magic Man, Robin Chan, who makes us look so damn good every week. I don't know how the hell he does it. My amazing grandsons, who I might get to see soon. That would be spectacular. Shout out to Savannah Petzold and Evan Petzold and Daxton Petzold, because I can't wait to see them all next week. And until next week, peace.